Hi there. My name is Lisa Smith, but you can call me Lise. I was going through my emails because my Google says I have too many emails. Go figure. It was getting around 14,000. It was time to start cleaning up. So I started the oldest ones first, and I was going backwards, and I came across the original bill and payment receipt for Genesis Hypnosis. So in January of 2021, I began working with Penny Chason. I was so hurt and so lost, and I felt so traumatized and so ill-equipped to solve anything that I was going through. It sucked. It sucked big time. I felt lost, and I had already done things. I had already done therapy. I had moved. I had full support of my spouse, my partner. My kids, totally, my older kids, they're grown. They're big kids. They were supporting me. I had an amazing therapist, chiropractor, nutritionist, physical doctor, what are those called? Medical doctors. My brain sometimes wobbles. And I had moved all away from all of that. I had been living in Kansas City, and we all moved to another state. We moved to South Dakota to be close to one of my grown children. And I took my mom with. A little bit of background information. My mom was living with us. She was in her mid-80s. She has had Alzheimer's type dementia. She was very hard of hearing, very stubborn. And she and I, as I like to say, did not necessarily have a Hallmark movie history. It was not all rainbows, roses, and unicorns. We definitely had our good times. And I definitely remember, especially from my childhood, not so good times. But that's not why we're talking today now, is it? Just a little bit of background history. So here I am in South Dakota in an 800 square foot basement apartment, a couple of windows, sliding glass door. Oh, very nice apartment, don't get me wrong, but 800 square feet, 3 adults, 1 bathroom, very tight quarters. And when we were all kind of pretty much trapped because of a bug that was going around the whole world back in 2020, it was rough. I had history with this woman. She couldn't hear. Hearing aids didn't help. And she was getting to be pretty difficult because of the Alzheimer's type dementia. I was losing my temper. One day I lost my temper. I slammed the bathroom door, and the clock that was on the wall fell. The face, the plastic face, shattered. Shards skidding along the basement floor as if they were icicles from a frozen roof during an ice storm. I knew at that moment that again, I had to find something that would make this better. She wasn't going to change. She couldn't change. There was no way for her to change. It was going to be all up to me. I had already done a lot of the work. I had worked with a different mentor, transforming from the inside out, but it wasn't enough. I needed more. And someone told me that Penny is a hypnotist and that Penny could help. Because we would go through a procedure. We would follow a path for healing at the subconscious level. Didn't really know what that meant at the time, but I was all for it. So, contacted her. I thought it was a good fit right away. Penny is kind, considerate, very professional, not all squishy-wishy, which is great. when you're in that kind of position, you don't necessarily want a squishy-wishy, all soft and ooey-gooey kind of person. Having a little bit of distance and perspective definitely helps. And Penny had perspective, has perspective. I'm sure she still does. So we did what was called 5-path, and that's where she guided me in a healing process. It took several weeks, and I wanted it to go faster. Oh my God, I wanted it to go faster. I wanted to do hypnosis every single solitary day with her, and I wanted to get done, and I wanted to get it 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 done. And that is not how it works. And that's okay. We worked together. And we did hypnosis over Zoom. It works perfect. Not a problem at all. And she guided me on 5-path, and she taught me 7th path, which is a self-hypnosis, mind, body, spiritual approach to self-hypnosis. And that's when I got to work every day, is when she started teaching me. During 5-path, she taught me 7th path. Now, those are details you probably don't need to know, but it's important to me to remember and say it out loud so that I can remember how it worked and how amazing it was. 7th path self-hypnosis kind of chipped away gently at the old stories I would tell myself, the old stories that were not empowering, the old stories that would plague me day in, day out, especially when I was alone, which was not very often in that little 800 square foot apartment. But at night, in the dark, when it was quiet. And 7th path really, really made a difference. It was rough at first, and it got better. So, I'd like to say that I became the most amazing human in the whole wide world, and everything was fine and dandy. Well, it is now. Mostly. I mean, but do you want it to be all fine and dandy all the time? No. Gotta have a little excitement here and there, but not much. But 5-path and working with Penny and 7th path self-hypnosis, it made it so that I was able to filter through the stories and the history and put to rest the things that were really no longer serving me. It was like putting it through a sieve, kind of shaking the noodles out, right? Keeping the wisdom that I had gained, the lessons I had learned with all those things that I'd been through, just as a human, right? Growing up, living life. I kept the good stuff. And all the trauma and all the old stories, old identity just rinsed out. So we took the wisdom and boop, excuse me, put it back in. Didn't really take it out, but it was a fun visual. Excuse me. And it made it so that I was able to help Helen, my mom, get into a care facility during a very difficult time here in the United States, where healthcare was at a premium because of the bugs that were flying around 2021. I was able to make peace. Oh, I was able to make peace. Not perfect peace, but peace with myself and with where I was and what I had to do to get her into that facility. No, it wasn't anything unlawful, illegal. It was just rough. It was tough. And had I not gone through the 5-path with Penny, I don't imagine that I would have been able to do it. So Helen was in, finally, a care facility where she was safe and taken care of by people whose specialty it was to take care of people with dementia. And I was able to have a clear mind so that when another opportunity arose, my husband and I were able to move to the beautiful state of Oregon, which had been a dream of ours for years and years and years. Then when we arrived here, we were able to get a house, And I was able to fly back to get her from the facility she was in and provide a home for her here in our home before we were able to move her to a memory care facility here, which is where she spent the rest of her days, which was only a few months due to an unfortunate pneumonia that took her from us. 5-path and 7th path self-hypnosis and working with Penny, I became the person I wanted to be, the person I knew was best, and I was able to treat her with compassion and kindness and wisdom. I was able to meet her where she was. Who? My mom, not Penny. I was able to meet my mom where she was. Sorry. And the rest of her days, when I would visit her, they were pleasant. I was able to meet her where she was, and it wasn't all about me anymore. I wasn't so unhappy, uncomfortable, and full of myself. I was able to be the person I wanted to be, the kind daughter, the gentle, resilient daughter who had gleaned so much from our time together. I was strong. I am strong. I am wise. And I was able to love her in the best way I could love her and provide for her because I had been healed. All the shit had been shook out, processed, and put away. Put that stuff to bed. Put it to rest, to bed. Yeah. 5-path, 7th path self-hypnosis, working with Penny. Oh yeah. It's good stuff. So good, and I will be so grateful. As a matter of fact, I'm so grateful, and it was such a tremendous transition and change and growth for me. A few years later, when she offered training so that I could learn it, so I could teach it to people, you betcha, I took it. I took that training. It took a lot of finagling, but I did. So in a minute, I will tell you about